On our wedding anniversary, my wife ran off with her lover and left me with our 3 young daughters. Years later, she was speechless when she saw how they were doing. The aroma of golden garlic and fresh herbs filled every corner of the small kitchen. Michael glanced one more time at the faded, stained recipe. Its paper was thin at the folds, nearly falling apart. His fingers traced the words handwritten by Rachel on their wedding day. Vodka ravioli, for when you want to win me over again. Daddy, the pink balloon is higher than the red one. Madison teetered precariously on her tiptoes, trying to reach the makeshift decoration. No. It's perfect like that, Emily intervened, her blue eyes, identical to her mother's, shining with the authority of her 6 years. Mommy likes it when things are kinda asymmetric, Michael completed, smiling as he chopped fresh basil. The clock read 5:45 p.m. Lucy, with her lopsided pigtails and a favorite dress already stained with marker, sat on the living room floor, scattering her drawings around. Look, Daddy, me and Mommy? The stick figures beamed with huge red smiles, surrounded by multicolored hearts. Michael saved yet another unanswered call on his phone. 15 calls. He took a deep breath, refocusing on the dough resting on the counter. He had saved for 3 months to buy the Italian flour Rachel always said made all the difference. Is the table pretty? Emily tugged on his pants, leaving little glitter marks in the fabric's creases. The dining table, the one Michael had restored during late nights the previous month, was covered with the only linen tablecloth they owned. The white plates, a wedding gift never used, reflected the fading afternoon light. In the center, a small glass vase held 3 red roses, one for each year of Lucy's age, just as Rachel used to do. It's perfect, princess. 6:20 p.m. Rachel always arrived at 6:00. On the wall, the girls' drawings formed an improvised gallery. Emily had put extra effort into a family portrait, 5 stick figures holding hands under a smiling sun. Madison preferred hearts, dozens of them, some crooked, some overlapping, all painted with the red lipstick she borrowed from her mom. Lucy, well, her colorful scribbles had their own special joy. Daddy, can I taste the sauce? Madison already had the spoon in hand, her eyes locked on the bubbling pot. Just a little. We don't want to spoil Mommy's surprise, right? 7:05 p.m. The ravioli was ready, kept warm in the oven. The candles were starting to form small pools of wax on the brass candlesticks. Daddy? Emily's voice had that tone that made his heart tighten. Did Mommy forget? Of course not, honey. She's probably stuck in traffic. Another unanswered call. 7:30 p.m. Lucy had already fallen asleep on the couch, surrounded by her drawings, a bit of drool staining the pillow. Madison distractedly played with the balloons, her eyes heavy with sleep. I'm just going to check something. Michael climbed the stairs, his heavy footsteps echoing in the silent house. The bedroom was exactly as he had left it that morning, the bed made with care, the pillows arranged the way Rachel liked. On the dresser stood the gift he had hidden, a small blue velvet box containing the ring she always admired in the downtown jewelry store window. 6 months of overtime were tucked into that delicate silver circle. That was when he noticed the right-hand drawer, always so organized, was slightly ajar. His fingers trembled as he pulled it open. A white envelope. His name scrawled in Rachel's hurried handwriting. Daddy? Emily's voice came from the hallway. Is Mommy really late? The thin paper rustled between his trembling fingers. The first words jumped out at him like stabs. Michael, I can't do this anymore. The smell of dinner still hung in the air, mingling with the roses and melted candle wax. Downstairs, he could hear Madison quietly humming her mother's favorite song. His hands shook so badly he almost dropped the paper. The words began to blur, dancing before his eyes. James offered me the life I always dreamed of. The girls will understand someday. Daddy? Emily was standing in the doorway now, her little fingers still glittery. Why are you crying? The clock read 8:15 p.m. In the kitchen, the ravioli was slowly cooling. The balloons swayed softly in the breeze coming through the window, and somewhere, on some road, Rachel was driving farther and farther away from the house with pictures on the walls and lipstick hearts. Mommy, Michael swallowed hard, crumpling the paper in his hands. How to explain the inexplicable? How to translate betrayal into words a 6-year-old could understand? In the living room, Lucy stirred in her sleep, murmuring "Mommy" in her dreams. Madison kept humming, her sweet, innocent voice echoing through the house that now felt too big, too empty. Emily remained in the doorway, her blue eyes so much like Rachel's locked on his, waiting for an answer he didn't know how to give. The dinner that never happened would remain there, like a frozen photograph of a moment that should have been but wasn't. The untouched white plates, the roses starting to wilt, the drawings on the walls silently witnessing the end of something no one saw coming. The crumpled note burned in his pocket as Michael tried to keep it together in front of the uneaten breakfast. Emily pushed her cereal around on the plate. Madison had refused to leave her room, and Lucy, unaware of the brewing storm, was drawing circles with jelly on her toast. "Daddy, is Mommy picking us up from school today?" Emily's voice carried a hope that tore at his heart. His phone buzzed for the 3rd time that morning. It was his sister, Kate, worried about the jumbled messages he'd sent in the middle of the night. How to explain that, while he reread that note for the 100th time, trying to find meaning among the hurried words, Rachel was probably already crossing the state line. "James is going to give me the life I've always deserved. I can't keep living like this. The girls will understand when they're older." The name James Anderson was not unfamiliar. Michael had seen it a few times in local newspaper headlines, the real estate developer who was transforming downtown with his mirrored skyscrapers. The same man who had appeared at the school's charity event 3 months earlier, his Rolex gleaming as he spoke to Rachel about promising investments. "I need to check something," he muttered, leaving the girls at the table. His hands trembled as he typed his banking app password. The screen loaded slowly, as if reluctant to reveal the truth. Where his monthly paycheck and the girls' college savings should have been, there were only red numbers and a single transaction. Withdrawal, 11:47 p.m. The sound of breaking glass snapped him out of his daze. In the kitchen, Lucy had knocked over her glass of milk and was now crying, frightened by the noise. Emily, trying to help, had cut her finger on one of the shards. "Don't move!" Michael ran into the kitchen, heart pounding. As he cleaned up the glass and took care of Emily's little cut, his mind raced. He had $50 in his wallet, a few coins in the emergency jar, and the refrigerator was nearly empty. "Why doesn't Madison want to come out of her room?" Lucy asked, her cheeks still wet with tears. Michael went upstairs and found Madison curled up on her bed, hugging the stuffed unicorn Rachel had given her on her last birthday. "She promised she'd take me to the park today," Madison whispered, her voice choked with tears. "She promised." His phone buzzed again. This time, a notification from Instagram. Rachel had posted a photo. His finger hovered over the screen for a moment before sliding to view it. It was a selfie at an airport, her wedding ring conspicuously absent, the simple caption reading, "Starting a new chapter. New life. Freedom." Anger washed over him in waves, not because of the betrayal, though it hurt like 1,000 needles, but because of the casual cruelty of posting it, knowing the girls could see it. "Daddy?" Emily was standing in the bedroom doorway, her bandaged finger still shining with glitter. "My teacher said we have to bring money for next week's field trip today. $20, the trip Rachel had promised to pay for." His voice failed. "We'll talk about that later, okay?" The phone rang. It was Madison's school. "Mr. Wilson, Madison isn't here today. She isn't feeling well." "I see. And the overdue tuition Mrs. Wilson said she'd pay today." Another empty promise. Downstairs, he found Lucy trying to reach a framed photo on the shelf, the one from last Christmas, everyone smiling in matching sweaters. Before he could stop her, the frame slipped, the glass shattering on the floor. "I'm sorry, Daddy." Lucy started crying again. As he picked up the shards, a note fell out from behind the frame, a jewelry store receipt. Dated 3 months earlier, a diamond necklace he'd never seen Rachel wear, signed, "With love, J.A." 3 months. The betrayal had started at least 3 months ago. The phone rang again. Unknown number. "Michael, this is James Anderson." His blood ran cold. I thought you should know that Rachel is safe. She needed this change. You must understand." Michael hung up. His hands shook so much he barely managed to set down the phone. "Daddy?" Emily was back, her eyes red from crying. "Mommy's not coming back, is she?" The truth weighed like lead on his tongue. How do you explain to a 6-year-old that her mother chose diamonds over drawings on the fridge, that she preferred a man she barely knew over the family she built? "No, sweetie." Mommy left?" Emily's sob tore something inside him. She ran to Madison's room, and soon he could hear the two of them sobbing together. Lucy, still too young to fully understand, picked up one of her drawings from the floor. "Look, Daddy, I made another picture of Mommy." The smiling stick figure was surrounded by hearts, blissfully unaware of the devastation its real-life counterpart had left behind. The rest of the day crawled by in a haze of missed calls, overdrawn accounts, and broken hearts. That night, after putting the girls to bed, all three piled into his king-size bed, unable to sleep alone, Michael sat in the still-decorated kitchen, meant for a dinner that never happened. The ravioli had been thrown out. The roses were wilting. The balloons were beginning to droop, sagging sadly in the corners of the room. His phone buzzed with one last message from Rachel. "I'm sorry. One day you'll understand. Take care of the girls." Michael looked at the fridge covered in drawings, at the tiny shoes lined up by the door, at the school backpacks hanging on the hooks. 3, not 4. Tomorrow he would have to explain to the teachers, cancel credit cards, figure out how to pay the bills on one salary, learn how to braid hair, deal with nightmares and unanswerable questions. But that night, sitting alone in the silent kitchen, Michael allowed himself to do something he would never do in front of the girls: cry. Not for the loss of Rachel, that pain would come later, but for the loss of his daughter's innocence, which they would wake up to find gone in a world where mothers can choose to leave, promises can be broken, and love sometimes isn't enough. Upstairs, he could hear Madison whispering to Emily, "But who's going to read us stories now?" "Daddy will," Emily answered, with a certainty he himself didn't feel. "Daddy always stays." Michael wiped his tears. Tomorrow would be a new day. Tomorrow he would be strong. Tomorrow he would begin to rebuild the world Rachel had destroyed with a few hurried words in a note. But that night, under the dim light of the kitchen, he was just a man trying to understand how someone could abandon 3 pairs of eyes that would continue to look for her every time the door opened. The alarm had barely sounded when Michael opened his eyes, exhausted from another restless night. Next to him, Lucy lay curled up, gripping his arm as if she feared he might disappear in the night. In the adjacent room, Emily and Madison slept together, a habit they'd developed since Rachel left. Careful not to wake Lucy, Michael got up. The face staring back at him in the bathroom mirror looked like it had aged years in just a few weeks. Deep circles under his eyes, unshaven stubble, red eyes from sleepless nights. "Daddy?" Emily's sleepy voice came from the hallway. "Is it time already?" Michael sighed. His 6-year-old shouldn't be waking up so early, worried about the day's tasks. "Go back to sleep, Princess. It's still early." But Emily was already up, rubbing her eyes. "I can help with breakfast." In the kitchen, while he made sandwiches and prepared fruit for their school lunches, Michael mentally reviewed his impossible schedule. Drop the girls off at school, rush to work, beg his boss for more overtime, pick the girls up, make dinner, help with homework, give baths, put them to bed. And then, when the house was finally quiet, deal with the mountain of bills piling up on the table. The ride to school was quiet. On the radio, a love song started playing, and Michael quickly changed stations. In the back seat, Madison sniffled silently while Emily tried to distract Lucy with a word game. Arriving a few minutes late to the office, Michael was met with his boss's disapproving glare. "Wilson, this is the 3rd time this week." "I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson. The girls—" "I understand your situation, Michael, but the company can't—" "It won't happen again," Michael interrupted, knowing he couldn't afford to lose this job. The hours dragged on. Between reports and spreadsheets, Michael found himself staring at the picture of his daughters on his desk. How could Rachel abandon them? How could she abandon him? At 4:30 p.m., his phone rang. It was Madison's school. "Mr. Wilson, Madison had another episode." She's in the nurse's office. Running down the halls of the elementary school, Michael found Madison curled up on a chair, sobbing. The nurse explained that she had a panic attack in art class. Apparently, they'd been making Mother's Day cards. The drive home was silent, Madison clinging to him as she had when she was a toddler. When they arrived, they found Mrs. Betty, the 65-year-old neighbor, waiting on the porch with Emily and Lucy. "I figured you might need a hand," she smiled kindly, holding out a covered dish. "I made some lasagna." The gratitude Michael felt was overwhelming. "Mrs. Betty, I don't know how to thank you." "Oh, nonsense. That's what neighbors are for." She crouched to Madison's eye level. "And how's my little artist today?" For the first time that day, Madison managed a tiny smile. While the girls ate in the living room, watching cartoons, Michael and Betty spoke quietly in the kitchen. "Michael, dear, you look exhausted." He ran a hand over his tired face. "I am Mrs. Betty. I don't know how I'm going to manage. One day at a time," she interjected softly, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "And you're not alone. I'm here if you need help with the girls." That night, after putting the children to bed, Michael finally had the courage to face the stack of bills. Each envelope he opened made his heart sink further. Overdue mortgage, electricity and water bills threatening disconnection, and then the final blow, a credit card statement with a staggering debt, charges at jewelry stores, luxury hotels, spas, all in the last few months before Rachel left. The realization hit him like a train. Rachel had not only abandoned them emotionally but financially as well. She left them drowning in debt, without a penny in savings. Tears of frustration and anger began to fall. How was he supposed to explain this to the girls? How would he keep a roof over their heads? A soft knock on the door startled him. Emily stood there, her wide eyes filled with concern. "Daddy? Are you crying?" Michael quickly dried his tears. "No, sweetie. I'm just a bit tired." Emily approached, picking up one of the bills from the table. "Is it because of this? My teacher said big numbers can be scary sometimes." A sob escaped Michael, a half laugh, half cry. His little Emily, always trying to understand, always trying to help. "Come here," he said, pulling her onto his lap. "You don't need to worry about these things, okay? That's Daddy's job." Emily hugged him tight. "I know you're sad because Mommy left. I am too. But we still have you, right?" "Always, my love, always." In the days that followed, a new routine began to take shape. Betty arrived every morning to help with breakfast and drive the girls to school, allowing Michael to get to work on time. In the afternoon, she picked them up and stayed with them until he got home. Emily, despite Michael's protests, took on more responsibilities around the house. She helped Lucy with her bath, tidied the rooms, and even tried to help Madison with her homework. One evening, Michael found her in the laundry room, standing on a little stool, trying to reach the washing machine controls. "Emily, what are you doing?" She turned around, startled. "I just wanted to help with the laundry, Daddy." "You always look so tired." Michael's heart clenched. He knelt beside her, taking her small hands in his. "Sweetie, I really appreciate you wanting to help, but you're a kid. Your job is to play, study, and be happy." Emily's eyes welled up with tears. "But what if you get so tired you want to leave too?" The question hit him like a punch. Michael pulled Emily into a tight hug. "I will never ever leave you girls, do you understand? Never." The weeks turned into months. The routine, though exhausting, brought a certain stability. Betty became a constant presence, a grandmother figure the girls had never had. She brought homemade food, told stories, and most importantly, offered Michael the emotional support he so desperately needed. But the debts kept piling up. Michael took a second job delivering pizzas at night after the girls were asleep. Nights when he slept more than 4 hours became rare. It was during one of those delivery nights that the car broke down. Stuck on the shoulder of the road in a light drizzle, Michael finally broke down himself. Tears came, mingling with the rain on his face. How had they come to this? How could Rachel do this to them? His phone rang. It was Betty. "Michael, the girls are asking about you. Is everything okay?" He swallowed the lump in his throat. The car broke down. I don't know what to do, Betty. A pause on the other end. When Betty spoke again, her voice was filled with determination. My son is a mechanic. I'll ask him to take a look at the car tomorrow. For now, come home. Your girls need you. Those simple yet powerful words were like a lighthouse in the darkness. Michael glanced at the photo of his daughters on the dashboard. They needed him, and for them he would keep fighting. When he got home, he found Emily, Madison, and Lucy huddled on the couch, waiting for him. Betty was in the kitchen, making hot chocolate. "Daddy!" Lucy shouted, running into his arms. As he embraced his daughters, feeling the warmth of their small bodies against his, Michael felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. They had a long road ahead. The debts were still there, and the specter of Rachel still hung over them. But at that moment, with his daughters in his arms and the smell of hot chocolate in the air, Michael knew they would somehow pull through, one day at a time, together. The eviction notice loomed on the refrigerator like a death sentence, its red letters shouting final warning at Michael each time he opened the door to get milk for the girls' cereal. 6 months had passed since Rachel left, taking not just the heart of the family, but every bit of financial stability they had. The morning routine, once an organized chaos, now felt like a daily battle. Madison, once the most talkative of the three, now barely got out of bed without a bout of anxiety. Lucy, the 4-year-old baby of the family, had nearly stopped talking altogether, communicating only with nods and sad looks. And Emily, his little warrior of 7, carried the weight of the world on her tiny shoulders, trying to be the mini-mom she thought her family needed. "Madison, honey, it's time to get up," Michael called softly, sitting on the edge of his daughter's bed. Madison only pulled the covers over her head, trembling slightly. "What if it happens again at school?" came the muffled voice under the blanket. "What if I can't breathe?" Michael closed his eyes, feeling the weight of helplessness. Madison's panic attacks were becoming more frequent, and the school had called 3 times that week. "I promise I'll be there if you need me, okay? I'll keep my phone on all the time." Downstairs, Emily was already in the kitchen, trying to reach the cereal box in the high cabinet. "Hey, princess, let me get that," Michael said, quickly grabbing the box before Emily could climb onto the counter. Emily frowned, clearly frustrated that she couldn't help more. "Daddy, I can do it. I'm not a baby anymore." "I know, sweetheart. But that's Daddy's job, remember?" The ride to school was silent. Lucy stared out the window, her big eyes lost in thoughts she no longer shared. Madison clutched her backpack like a shield, and Emily watched everything with eyes far older than her 7 years. At work, Michael could barely concentrate. The numbers on his computer screen seemed to dance, mocking his inability to balance the household finances. The second job, delivering pizzas, barely dented the debt Rachel left behind. Now, with winter approaching, the bills would only get worse. "Wilson?" His boss's voice snapped him back. "We need to talk." In the small office, Mr. Johnson looked uncomfortable. "Michael, you know we value your work, but you're consistently late, leaving unexpectedly." "Mr. Johnson, please," Michael interrupted, desperation in his voice. "I need this job, my girls." "I understand," his boss sighed, "but the company is cutting costs. I can't guarantee your position if this continues." The rest of the day passed in a blur. When he got home, Mrs. Betty was in the kitchen, a worried expression on her face and an envelope in her hand. "Michael, dear, Emily's teacher sent this." Inside the envelope was a report card with marks far below Emily's usual standards and a note requesting an urgent parent-teacher conference. It was as if something inside him broke. Months of stress, sleepless nights, and constant worry finally overflowed. Hot, bitter tears fell as sobs shook his body. Betty gently guided him to a chair, placing a steaming mug of tea in front of him. "Oh, my dear," she murmured, her comforting hand on Michael's shoulder. "Let it out. You've been carrying this alone for too long." Between sips of tea and sobs, Michael poured out everything. The debts, the looming eviction, the fear of losing his job, the constant worry for his daughters. Betty listened attentively, her eyes filled with compassion. When Michael finished, she was silent for a moment, as though pondering something. "You know, Michael," she began softly, "many years ago, I was exactly where you are now. Michael looked up, surprised. Oh yes, Betty continued. My husband left me with 3 small children and a mountain of debt. I thought my world had ended. How did you manage? Michael asked, a spark of hope lighting inside him. Betty smiled, a smile filled with memories and strength. One day at a time, and with the help of good people around me. She paused. It wasn't easy. There were days I wanted to give up. But I looked at my kids and knew I had to keep going. She took Michael's hand. You're stronger than you think, Michael. And those girls, they're resilient. You'll get through this together. But the eviction, the bills, he sighed. We'll take it one thing at a time, Betty said firmly. Tomorrow, we'll go to the bank together. Maybe we can renegotiate the mortgage. And as for the girl, well, I think it's time I officially retired as a babysitter. Michael stared at her, confused. Oh, don't look at me like that, she laughed. Spending time with your girls has been the joy of my days, and if it allows you to work a few extra hours without worrying, then it's my pleasure. Tears filled Michael's eyes again, this time out of gratitude. Mrs. Betty, I don't know how to thank you. No need, she interrupted gently. Just promise you won't give up. Those girls need you, and you, my dear, need to remember you're not alone in this. Just then, they heard light footsteps on the stairs. Emily appeared in the kitchen doorway, her eyes wide with concern. Daddy, are you crying? Michael opened his arms and Emily ran to him, burying her face in his chest. Soon Madison and Lucy joined them, drawn by the muffled sounds of sobbing. There, in the middle of the kitchen, with his 3 daughters in his arms, and Betty looking on with a gentle smile, Michael felt something he hadn't felt in months, hope. It's okay, girls, he murmured, kissing the top of each head. Daddy had a tough day, but everything will be all right. We'll be all right. And for the first time in a long time, he truly believed it. As the girls returned to bed, Betty gave Michael's shoulder one last reassuring squeeze before leaving. Remember, Michael, one day at a time. And tomorrow, we start fighting back. Michael nodded, feeling a new resolve well up inside him. The breaking point had passed. Now there was only rebuilding. With Betty by his side and his daughter's love sustaining him, he would face whatever came next. The journey would be long and hard, but for the first time in 6 months, Michael Wilson looked toward the future not with fear, but with determination. They would overcome this. Together. The scent of sawdust and varnish filled the small garage, which had been turned into a makeshift workshop. Michael ran his calloused hands over the smooth surface of the coffee table he had just finished. It was Saturday night, and while the girls slept under Betty's watchful care, he allowed himself this moment of escape in his old hobby. Woodworking had always been his secret passion. In the happier years of his marriage, Michael spent hours in that garage, creating small pieces, picture frames, jewelry boxes, toys for the girls. Rachel used to tease him that he had magic hands, capable of turning simple scraps of wood into works of art. Now woodworking had become his safety valve. In the rare free hours between his 2 jobs and caring for his daughters, Michael found refuge there, losing himself in the process of creating beauty out of chaos. Early Monday morning, upon arriving at the administrative office where he worked, Michael was surprised by a note from his boss. Wilson, I need you to take a look at the reception area. The main desk is practically falling apart, and we don't have the budget to replace it this month. Michael examined the reception desk. Years of use and neglect had turned what was once an elegant piece into something quite pitiful. Without much thought, he heard himself saying, I can try to restore it, Mr. Johnson. I have some experience in woodworking. His boss looked at him, surprised, but nodded. If you can do anything to improve its appearance, I'd be grateful. We have an important client visiting next week. In the following days, Michael used his lunch breaks and some time after work to repair the desk. Carefully and precisely, he sanded, patched, varnished, and polished. His hands, guided by years of practice and passion, breathed new life into the worn wood. On the morning of the important client's visit, the entire office was buzzing. Michael, exhausted from yet another late night working on the piece, barely noticed the commotion around him. Then he heard a deep, impressed voice. Who did this magnificent work? Michael looked up from his desk to see a tall man, grey hair, impeccable suit, admiring the reception desk. Next to him, Mr. Johnson looked both nervous and proud. It was our administrative assistant, Mr. William Michael Wilson. The man, William, turned to Michael with an intense look. "You have a rare gift, Mr. Wilson. This is not the work of an amateur." Before Michael could respond, William stepped closer, examining his hands with professional interest. "These are an artisan's hands. Tell me, how long have you been working with wood?" Swallowing hard, Michael replied, It's just a hobby, sir. Something I do in my spare time." William let out a disbelieving laugh. "A hobby, my dear man. You're wasting your talent here. Do you know who I am?" Michael shook his head, confused. "William Hartley, owner of Hartley Fine Furniture. I'm always on the lookout for talent like yours." Michael's heart raced. Hartley Fine Furniture was one of the most renowned luxury furniture companies in the country. Their pieces were coveted by collectors and top interior designers. "Mr. Wilson, I'd like to offer you an opportunity, a position at my workshop, learning from the best craftsmen in the business. The work is tough, the hours are long, but for someone with your talent, well, it could be the start of a brilliant career." Michael's head spun. An opportunity like this was more than he ever dreamed of. But then his daughters' faces flashed through his mind. The long hours, the intensive training. How would he juggle that with caring for them? As if reading his thoughts, William continued, "I know it might seem scary at first, but I believe your talent deserves nurturing. I'm willing to be flexible with the schedule, if that's a concern." Michael felt a lump in his throat. I have 3 young daughters. I'm a single dad, and..." William nodded sympathetically. "I understand and I admire your dedication. But think about this. This opportunity isn't just for you, it's for them too. The potential growth, the salary, it could change your family's life." William's words echoed in Michael's mind for the rest of the day. When he arrived home, he found Betty playing with the girls in the living room. "Did something happen?" she asked, noticing his distant expression. After the girls went to bed, Michael told Betty about William's offer, his voice trembling with excitement and uncertainty. "Oh, Michael," Betty exclaimed, her eyes shining. "That's wonderful. An opportunity like this. But the girls, Betty, how can I take something that will keep me away from them even more?" Betty took his hands in hers. "Michael, listen. Sometimes, to be the best father you can be, you have to make tough choices. This opportunity isn't just about you fulfilling a dream, it's about giving your daughters a better, more stable future." She paused, her eyes filling with determination. "And about the girls, well, don't you think it's time this old lady moved closer to her honorary grandkids?" Michael stared at her, surprised. "Betty, I can't ask you to..." "You're not asking, dear. I'm offering. Those girls are the light of my days, and seeing you reach your full potential. That would be the icing on the cake." That night, lying in bed, Michael looked at the photo of his daughters on the nightstand. Emily's voice echoed in his mind. "We still have you, right, Daddy?" Yes, they had him. And now, perhaps, he could give them more than just his presence. He could give them a future, one without constant financial worries, one where they could see their father not merely surviving, but thriving. With a deep sigh, Michael made his decision. Tomorrow, he would call William and accept the offer. The road would be hard, the hours long, but with Betty's help and his daughter's love as motivation, he was ready for this new challenge. It was more than a job opportunity. It was a chance to rebuild not just furniture, but the life he dreamed of for his family. The gentle sound of sandpaper against wood filled the night. Michael, fully focused on his work, barely noticed the hours passing. In William's workshop, surrounded by tools and precious woods, he felt more at home than he ever had. "Excellent work, Michael," William's voice surprised him. "Your technique is improving quickly." Michael looked up, a tired but satisfied smile on his face. "Thank you, Mr. Hartley. I still have a lot to learn, but you have a natural gift," William finished, "and an impressive dedication. Now go home. Your daughters must be waiting." The drive back was always a swirl of emotions. Physical exhaustion mixed with a newfound excitement he hadn't felt in ages. Parking in the driveway, he noticed the kitchen light still on. As usual, Betty waited for him with a warm plate and a listening ear. "How was your night, dear?" she asked, handing him a cup of tea. Michael sighed, eyes gleaming. "Amazing, Betty. William taught me a new carving technique today. It's like I'm rediscovering my passion." Betty smiled, her eyes full of motherly pride. "It's wonderful to see you like this, Michael. The girls have noticed too, you know." He raised his eyebrows, surprised. "They have?" "Oh, yes, especially Madison. She's been spending a lot of time watching you work in the yard on weekends." The mention of Madison made Michael's heart clench. His middle daughter, once so vibrant, still struggled with anxiety and fear of abandonment. Yet, in recent weeks, he had noticed small changes, fewer panic attacks, a few timid smiles. "Speaking of Madison," Betty continued hesitantly, "there's something I'd like to discuss with you." Michael straightened in his chair, ready to listen. "My daughter, Ashley, is a child psychologist. I've been telling her about the girls, and, well, she offered to help. Free of charge, of course. Just as a favor to her mother and the family she now considers her own." Tears sprang to Michael's eyes. The generosity of Betty and her family seemed boundless. "Betty, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," she smiled kindly. "The girls have been through a lot. A bit of professional help could work wonders." The next morning, a sunny Saturday, Michael set up a small project in the backyard. While he arranged his makeshift workbench, he noticed Madison watching from her bedroom window. Smiling, he waved at her. Minutes later, Madison appeared in the yard, still in her pajamas, her bare feet on the grass. Can I watch you work, Daddy?" she asked shyly. Michael's heart brimmed with joy. "Of course you can, Princess. How about helping me?" Madison's eyes widened. "I can. Absolutely. Come on. I'll show you how to sand this piece." Guiding Madison's small hands over the wood, teaching her the proper motion, Michael felt a long dormant connection spring to life. The fear in his daughter's eyes gave way to curiosity, and for a fleeting moment, joy. Inside, Emily and Lucy joined the activity, each finding a small task to help with. Betty watched from the porch, her heart filled with affection for the little family she had adopted. The following week, Ashley made her first visit. With her brown hair and gentle smile, she instantly won the girls' trust. "The important thing is to create a safe space for them to express their feelings," Ashley explained to Michael after the session. "Each one is dealing with abandonment in a different way. Emily takes on too many responsibilities, Madison developed anxiety, and Lucy withdrew into her own world. But there's hope, Michael, a lot of hope." Weeks turned into months. The routine, once exhausting, now had purpose. Michael divided his days between administrative work, carpentry lessons at William's workshop, and precious moments with his daughters. Madison, inspired by her sessions with Ashley and her dad's new hobby, started sketching. Her once dark drawings gradually gained color and life. Emily, seeing her father less burdened, allowed herself to be a child again, filling the house with laughter, and Lucy, slowly, began speaking more, sharing little stories about her day. One night, after tucking the girls in, Michael found Betty in the kitchen. "They seem different," he remarked in awe. "Lighter, happier." Betty nodded, her eyes shining. "It's because you're different, Michael. Children are like mirrors. They reflect what they see, and what they see now is a fulfilled father, following his passion." Michael pondered Betty's words. It was true. For the first time in a long while, he felt alive, inspired. Woodworking was no longer just a job or a hobby. It was a way of healing for him and for his daughters. "You know," Betty continued, "there's an old saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. Your transformation, Michael, is lifting this whole family." That night, lying in bed, Michael heard Lucy's soft snores. Once again, she had snuck into his room. In the hallway, he heard Emily quietly reading a story to Madison. Closing his eyes, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. The road was still long, and there were many challenges ahead, but for the first time since Rachel left, Michael felt they were truly moving forward. not just surviving but starting to flourish. The transformation was only beginning, but its roots were already deeply planted in love, determination, and the renewed hope of a family learning to rebuild their dreams together. The smell of fresh coffee filled the kitchen as Michael looked over the envelope in his hands, barely believing what he saw. His first paycheck as head craftsman at Hartley Fine Furniture was more than double his previous salary. "Daddy, Daddy!" Emily's excited voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Can I see it again?" Michael smiled, handing her the business card William had given him the day before. It read, in elegant lettering, "Michael Wilson, head craftsman." "Does this mean we're rich now?" Madison asked, her eyes shining with a mix of hope and curiosity. "Not exactly rich," Michael laughed, ruffling her hair. "But it means things are going to get easier for us." Betty, who was watching from the sink as she washed dishes, couldn't hide her smile. "I always knew you'd make it, Michael. Your talent is a gift." The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. With the new position came not only a pay raise, but also creative freedom to design his own pieces. Michael spent hours in his small backyard workshop, sketching ideas and creating prototypes. During one of these creative sessions, Betty brought in a tray of tea and cookies, making a suggestion that would change everything. "You know, Michael," she said, looking at the sketch of a coffee table, "what if you added a secret compartment here? Something elegant yet functional?" Michael looked from the design to Betty, surprised. "That's brilliant, Betty. Why didn't I think of that before?" In the days that followed, Michael and Betty formed an unexpected partnership. He brought the technical knowledge and craft. She brought a keen eye for design and function. Together, they created a piece that blended the elegance of fine furniture with practical, fun, innovative touches. When Michael presented the final design to William, the businessman was ecstatic. "This, my dear fellow, is not just furniture, it's functional art. We need to showcase this immediately." The coffee table, complete with its hidden compartment and sleek lines, was the highlight of Hartley Fine Furniture's fall exhibition. Collectors and interior designers flocked around it, marveling at its beauty and ingenuity. At the end of the evening, William approached Michael, a broad smile on his face. "Congratulations, my boy. Not only was your piece sold, but it fetched a record price for a craftsman's first exhibition." Michael was stunned by the amount. It was more than he used to make in an entire year at his old job. With tears in his eyes, he called Betty, who was watching the girls. "We did it! Betty, we did it!" The news of the sale brought a wave of change for the Wilson family. With Michael's new salary and the bonus from the sale, they finally moved to a larger, more comfortable apartment. Moving day was hectic, with boxes stacked everywhere and palpable excitement in the air. Emily and Madison raced from room to room, planning how to decorate their new spaces. Lucy, still quiet, watched everything with curious eyes. While unpacking, Michael noticed Lucy standing at the door to her new bedroom, eyes fixed on something. Following her gaze, he saw a dollhouse he had secretly built for her over the last few weeks. It was a miniature replica of their old home, each detail lovingly recreated. Michael had placed it in Lucy's room as a surprise, hoping it would offer some familiar comfort amid so many changes. To everyone's amazement, Lucy approached the dollhouse, gently touched it, and in a voice barely above a whisper said, "Home. Our home." The ensuing silence broke with Michael's sobs of joy and Emily and Madison's excited cheers. Lucy had spoken. After months of near silence, she had finally found her voice again. That night, as the girls slept in their new rooms, Michael sat in the living room with Betty, both exhausted but happy. "You know," Betty said with a smile, "I think we found our calling as a design duo." Michael laughed, nodding. Who would have thought? The woodworker and the honorary grandma, revolutionizing the world of luxury furniture. As they watched the city through the large windows of the new apartment, Michael felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. This wasn't just a change of address or a change of job. It was the beginning of a new chapter, full of possibilities and hope, the first victory of many still to come. The soft scratch of pencil on paper filled Michael's studio. 3 years had passed since his first record-breaking sale, and now, surrounded by award-winning prototypes and designs, he allowed himself a moment of reflection. Hartley Fine Furniture, once known for its traditional approach, was now synonymous with innovation thanks to the Wilson Creations line. Collectors kept waitlists to buy his pieces, and design magazines kept praising the unique blend of functionality and art in his furniture. A gentle knock on the door broke his reverie. "Mr. Wilson," William's assistant peeked inside. "Mr. Hartley would like to see you." In the main office, William greeted him with a broad smile and a warm handshake. "Michael, my boy, we got the quarterly numbers. Your line exceeded all expectations, again." Michael smiled, a mix of pride and humility on his face. "It's an incredible team, William. And I can't forget Betty's contributions." William laughed. "Ah, yes, the dynamic duo. Speaking of which, when are you going to give her an official title?" The question hung in the air, interrupted by Michael's phone ringing. It was Emily's school. "Mr. Wilson, we'd like to schedule a meeting to discuss Emily's science project. She's been selected to represent the school at the state fair." Michael's chest swelled with pride. Emily, now 10, had truly blossomed in recent years. Her project on renewable energy sources had already become a hot topic in the school community. Arriving home that evening, he was greeted by a tight hug from Madison. "Dad, look what I made in therapy today." She showed him a vibrant, colorful painting. "It's beautiful, sweetheart." Michael admired the artwork. Art therapy had been a transformative discovery for Madison. Her panic attacks were now rare, and she found art to be a way of expressing her emotions. From the kitchen came the melodic voice of Lucy, now 6, telling a long story to Betty, who was cooking dinner. And then the carpenter princess built a magical castle, where all the furniture could talk. Michael smiled, leaning against the doorway to listen. Since regaining her speech, Lucy had become a prolific storyteller, always mixing everyday life with fantasy. "What a wonderful story, Lucy," came Ashley's voice behind him, prompting Michael to turn around. In the last few years, Ashley's visits had become more frequent. What began as therapy sessions for the girls turned into family dinners, park outings, and long talks on the porch with Michael. "Ashley, I didn't know you were coming today." Michael felt his heart speed up slightly, as always happened in her presence. She smiled, her eyes bright. "Thought I'd surprise you." "Hope that's okay." "Never a problem," he responded, perhaps too quickly. Dinner was lively, everyone sharing their day's updates. Emily spoke enthusiastically about her science project. Madison proudly showed off her new painting, and Lucy entertained everyone with another fantastic tale. Later, after putting the girls to bed, Michael and Ashley ended up on the porch, each with a steaming mug of tea. "They're doing so well, Michael," Ashley noted, gazing at the stars. "It's amazing to see the transformation." Michael nodded, his voice filled with emotion. "Sometimes I can hardly believe it. 3 years ago, I couldn't imagine a future for us. And now you're a renowned master craftsman, father to 3 amazing girls," and Ashley hesitated, a slight blush on her cheeks. Michael turned to her, his heart pounding. "And," Ashley smiled shyly, "and maybe ready for a new chapter in your personal life." The silence that followed was loaded with possibilities. Michael looked at Ashley, seeing not just the therapist who helped his daughters, but the woman who had gradually won his heart. "I think I'm more than ready," he replied softly, reaching for her hand. As the night wore on, Michael reflected on the journey of the past few years, from the devastation of abandonment to professional success, from financial struggles to the opportunities he could now provide for his girls. And now, with Ashley by his side, he truly felt a new chapter was beginning. The rise wasn't just about career success or financial stability. It was about healing, growth, and the promise of a bright future for the entire Wilson family. The autumn sun bathed the schoolyard in a golden light as the final bell rang, signaling the end of the day. Emily, now 9, emerged from the main building, her backpack heavy with advanced science books. Her eyes scanned the schoolyard, looking for the familiar face of Betty or her dad. That was when she saw someone she hadn't seen in years, but who still occasionally haunted her nightmares: Rachel. Her mother stood near the gate, looking nervous and out of place. Their eyes met and a hesitant smile formed on Rachel's lips. Emily felt her heart race. Memories of sleepless nights crying, of Madison's panic attacks, of Lucy's silence, all came flooding back in a torrent of emotion. "Emily?" Rachel's voice was soft, almost pleading. "My goodness, how you've grown." Emily stood there, her small hands clenched into fists. Years of therapy with Ashley, of comforting talks with Dad and Betty, had led to this moment. "What are you doing here?" Emily asked, her voice steady, even surprising herself. Rachel took a step forward, stopping when she saw Emily move back. I wanted to see you. See all of you. I made a terrible mistake, Emily." A mistake?" Emily interrupted, her voice trembling slightly. "You abandoned us. You left Madison so scared she could barely leave the house. Lucy stopped talking for months, and Daddy, he cried every night, thinking we couldn't hear." Each word seemed to make Rachel shrink more, tears welling in her eyes. "I know, sweetheart. I know I caused so much pain. But things went wrong. James?" "James?" Emily repeated, confused. "The man I left you for," Rachel admitted, shame heavy in her voice. He wasn't who I thought he was." At that moment, Michael's car pulled into the school parking lot. He quickly got out, alerted by another parent about Rachel's presence. "Emily!" he called, rushing to his daughter. He stopped abruptly upon seeing Rachel, his face a mixture of shock and subdued anger. "Michael," Rachel whispered, looking even smaller in the face of her ex-husband's imposing figure. Emily moved closer to her dad, seeking his protection. Michael placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "What are you doing here, Rachel?" Michael's voice was cold, controlled. Rachel looked from Michael to Emily, then back to Michael. I need to talk to you. To all of you. I made a terrible mistake, and now, after 3 years," Michael's voice rose slightly, "you think you can just show up and—" "Daddy," Emily interjected softly, surprising both adults. "Maybe we should hear what she has to say." Michael looked at his daughter, amazed at her maturity. With a sigh, he nodded. "Fine, but not here. Let's go home." The drive back was tense and silent. Rachel sat in the back seat, looking out of place in the luxury car that stood as proof of Michael's recent success. At home, they were greeted by Betty, who was taking care of Madison and Lucy. Her eyes widened at the sight of Rachel, a mix of surprise and protectiveness. "Rachel," Betty said neutrally, "hey, it's been a long time." The two younger girls froze upon seeing their mother. Madison immediately hid behind Betty, while Lucy just stared, confused. "Girls," Michael said softly, "why don't you go to Emily's room for a bit? We adults need to talk." Reluctantly, they complied, with Emily giving Rachel one last piercing look before following her sisters. In the living room, Rachel sat looking defeated. "I don't even know where to begin," she murmured. "How about the beginning?" Michael suggested, his voice gentler than he intended. Rachel nodded, taking a deep breath. "James, the man I ran away with, he wasn't who he seemed. All that wealth, that luxurious lifestyle, it was all a front." She paused, fighting back tears. "He was involved in a massive financial scam, conning investors, laundering money. At first I had no idea. By the time I found out, it was too late." Michael and Betty listened silently, their faces a mixture of shock and reluctant sympathy. "6 months ago, everything fell apart," Rachel continued. "The police raided our house. James was arrested. I lost everything. The house, the car, the jewelry, all seized as evidence or to pay back the victims." "And now you come back to us?" Michael asked, anger and hurt mixed in his voice. Rachel nodded, tears flowing freely. "I know I have no right. I know I caused irreparable damage, but I had nowhere else to go, and more than that, I realized the terrible mistake I made. Not a day goes by that I don't regret leaving my girls, leaving you, Michael." The silence that followed was heavy, laden with unresolved pain and countless questions. It was Betty who finally spoke. "Rachel, you have to understand. These girls have been through so much. They're finally in a good guy, stable place. Your being here, it could shake everything up." Rachel nodded, wiping her tears. I know. I just wanted a chance to say I'm sorry, to try to fix what I broke, if that's even possible. Michael stood, walking to the window. He could see the girls in Emily's room, likely talking about what was happening downstairs. "Rachel," he said finally, turning to face her. "I can't deny that seeing you here opens a lot of old wounds, but I also can't deny the girls the chance to have their mother back in their lives, if that's what they want." He paused, his gaze intense. "But this will be on our terms, step by step. And if at any point I feel it's hurting them, it ends. Understood?" Rachel nodded eagerly, a spark of hope in her eyes. "Yes, of course. Thank you, Michael, thank you." While the adults continued their difficult conversation, upstairs, the three sisters sat in a circle on the carpet in Emily's room. "Is she staying?" Lucy asked quietly. Madison hugged her knees. "What if she leaves again?" Emily looked at her sisters, feeling the weight of responsibility as the oldest. "I don't know what's going to happen," she said honestly. "But I know that no matter what, we have each other, and we have Daddy and Grandma Betty." The three of them hugged, united by their love and uncertainty. Downstairs, the adults continued their fraught conversation, navigating the turbulent waters of the past in search of a path to the future. The storm had arrived, unexpected and powerful, but maybe, just maybe, after the turmoil would come the long-awaited calm. Rain tapped gently against the windows of Michael's apartment, creating a melancholy atmosphere that matched the mood inside. Rachel sat on the living room couch, her fingers intertwined nervously in her lap, while Michael paced back and forth, trying to absorb everything she had just told him. "I know I have no right to ask anything of you, Michael," Rachel began, her voice trembling. "But I beg you, let me try to reconnect with the girls. I need to fix what I've done." Michael stopped, looking at the woman who had once been the center of his world. She looked so different now, thinner, with dark circles under her eyes, and a fragility he had never seen before. "Rachel," he began hesitantly, "you can't just walk back in and expect everything to be fine. The girls have been through a lot. We all have." Then he noticed it, a subtle tremor in her hands, the pallor of her skin, the way she seemed to fight just to sit upright. "Rachel, are you okay?" She looked away, biting her lip. I didn't want to tell you like this. I didn't want it to be out of pity." "Tell me what?" Michael insisted, a knot forming in his stomach. Rachel took a deep breath, finally meeting his gaze. "I'm sick, Michael, very sick. The doctors, they're not giving me much time." The shock of her revelation hit Michael like a punch. He sank into the chair opposite her, trying to process the information. "Why didn't you say anything? Why hide this?" "Because I don't want it to be about that," Rachel replied, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I want a chance to make amends, to know my daughters again, because it's the right thing to do, not because I'm dying." A heavy silence followed, broken only by the sound of the front door opening. Ashley entered, stopping abruptly at the scene before her. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know," she began, but Michael interrupted. "No, please come in. We might need your help." In the next few minutes, Michael and Rachel explained the situation to Ashley. The therapist listened intently, her face professionally neutral, though Michael could see the concern in her eyes. "The girls need to know," Ashley said finally. "But we have to handle this very carefully. Each one will react differently." As if on cue, they heard the girls' voices approaching. Betty was bringing them back from school. Emily was the first to enter, stopping short at the sight of Rachel. Her face instantly closed off. "What's she doing here again?" Madison peered from behind Emily, eyes wide with fear and curiosity. Lucy, the youngest, looked at Rachel with confusion, not fully recognizing her. "Girls," Michael said gently, "your mom would like to talk to you." Emily crossed her arms. "I don't want to talk to her." Madison, however, took a small step forward. Are you leaving again?" Rachel swallowed hard, fighting tears. "No, honey, I'd like to stay, if you'll let me." Lucy tugged on Michael's sleeve. "Daddy, who is she?" Everyone's heart seemed to break a little at that innocent question. Ashley gently intervened. "How about we all sit down and talk for a bit?" We don't have to decide anything right now, okay? Over the next few minutes, Ashley guided a delicate conversation. Emily refused to speak directly to Rachel, only responding when Ashley asked questions. Madison alternated between curiosity and fear, hesitantly asking where Rachel had been. Lucy, still confused, stayed in Michael's lap, observing quietly. Rachel answered each question with painful honesty, not trying to justify or minimize her actions. When the girls finally went to their rooms, exhausted by the emotional strain, Michael, Rachel, and Ashley remained in the living room, the air heavy with all that had been said and all that remained to be resolved. "This will take time," Ashley said softly. "A lot of time and patience," Rachel nodded, looking more tired than ever. "Time is something I don't have much of," she murmured. Michael's heart clenched. Despite all the anger and hurt he still felt, seeing Rachel like this, ill, regretful, desperate for a chance, stirred something deep within him. "Where are you staying?" he asked abruptly. Rachel looked surprised. I'm at a hostel downtown." Michael glanced at Ashley, a silent conversation passing between them. Ashley nodded slightly. "You can stay in the guest room," Michael said finally, "at least until we figure out how to handle all this." Rachel's eyes filled with grateful tears. "Michael, This isn't for us," he interrupted gently. "It's for the girls. They deserve the chance to know you again, to understand everything." After Rachel was shown to the guest room, Michael and Ashley remained in the living room. The silence between them was loaded with unspoken emotions. "You're doing the right thing," Ashley finally said, placing a comforting hand on Michael's arm. He turned to her, his eyes reflecting a mix of pain, confusion, and something else, something that had been growing between them for months. "Ashley, I don't know what I'd do without you, without your support and guidance." She smiled softly. "You're stronger than you think, Michael. You always have been." For a moment, they stood there, close, the air charged with possibility. Michael felt an almost irresistible urge to lean in and kiss her, to find solace in her arms. But the moment passed. The reality of the situation, Rachel sick in the next room, the girls grappling with their mother's sudden return, asserted itself. "I'd better go," Ashley said softly, "but I'll be here tomorrow. We'll face this together, okay?" Michael nodded, grateful for her continued support. When Ashley left, Michael was alone in the living room, the weight of the world on his shoulders. The future, which only days ago seemed so clear and promising, now felt cloudy and uncertain. But one thing he knew for sure: no matter what happened, he would do what was best for his daughters. Always. The late afternoon sun streamed through the tall windows of Michael's office at Hartley Fine Furniture. He was hunched over a new design, his skilled fingers tracing elegant lines that would soon become yet another functional work of art. A soft knock on the door pulled him from his concentration. "Mr. Wilson," his assistant, Sarah, peeked in. "There's a man here insisting on seeing you, says it's urgent." Michael frowned, puzzled. He had no appointment scheduled that afternoon. "Who is it?" "He says his name is James Anderson." The pencil fell from Michael's hand, rolling across the desk. James Anderson, the man Rachel had left him for. The man who, according to her, was in prison for fraud. "Send him in," Michael said, his voice tense. James walked into the office as though he owned the place, but his shifty eyes betrayed a barely contained anxiety. He looked thinner than in the photos Michael had seen years before, and though he wore designer clothes, they seemed worn and ill-fitted. "Michael Wilson," James said with a smirk, extending his hand. "We finally meet." Michael ignored the outstretched hand. "What do you want, James?" James lowered his hand, the smile faltering. "Straight to the point. I like that." "Well, I came to congratulate you on your success. Your furniture line is impressive." "How did you find out about me?" Michael asked, suspicious. James pulled a home decor magazine from the briefcase he carried and tossed it onto Michael's desk. On the cover was a photo of one of Michael's latest designs. Imagine my surprise, seeing Rachel's ex-husband hailed as the new genius of luxury woodworking, James said with a humorless laugh. "Life is full of twists, isn't it?" Michael stood up, patience wearing thin. "If you're here just for that, I suggest you leave. I have work to do." "Oh, don't be so hasty, Michael," James said, his tone growing dark. "I actually came to propose a deal." "I have nothing to discuss with you," Michael replied icily. James leaned forward, lowering his voice. "I believe you do. You see, Rachel must have told you about my legal issues, but what she probably didn't tell you were the murkier details of our time together." Michael's stomach churned. "What are you talking about? Rachel wasn't just an innocent bystander, Michael. She took part in some of my more creative ventures. Nothing outright illegal, of course, but definitely questionable. That could tarnish your new reputation, wouldn't you say?" Anger began to boil inside Michael. "Are you trying to blackmail me?" James raised his hands in mock innocence. "Blackmail is such a nasty word. I prefer to think of it as an exchange of favors. You help me financially, and I keep Rachel's secrets. Well, secret." "You're bluffing," Michael said, but a seed of doubt took root. James's cold, calculated smile returned. "Are you sure you want to risk it? Rachel has finally reconnected with her daughters, hasn't she? It would be a shame if they found out their mother isn't as innocent as she appears." Michael felt the blood pounding in his veins. In 2 steps, he was in front of James, grabbing his lapel. "Get out now, before I call security." James didn't flinch. "Think it over, Michael. You have 48 hours to decide. Otherwise—" He let the threat hang in the air. After James left, Michael collapsed into his chair, his mind racing. He needed to talk to Rachel, find out the truth, but how could he do that without destroying the fragile connection she was building with the girls? That night, at home, Michael watched Rachel interact with the girls. Emily still kept her distance, but Madison was beginning to open up, and Lucy delighted in the stories Rachel shared about her own childhood. "Rachel," Michael called gently once the girls were in bed. "We need to talk." In his home office, away from the curious ears of the children, he told Rachel about James's visit. He saw her face go pale and her hands start trembling. "Is it true?" he finally asked. Did you take part in his schemes?" Rachel closed her eyes, tears rolling down her cheeks. I didn't know the extent of what he was doing, Michael. But yes, there were moments when I did things I'm not proud of." "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked quietly. "Because I was ashamed," she whispered. "Because I was finally rebuilding something with you and the girls, and I was afraid I'd lose it all again." Michael stood, running his hands through his hair in frustration. "Rachel, don't you see? By hiding this, you gave James power over you, over us." "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I never wanted this. What are we going to do?" Michael looked out the window at the city lights, his mind racing through every possibility. Paying James would only buy temporary peace. He'd surely come back for more. Ignoring him meant risking that he'd follow through on his threats. "We fight," Michael said firmly. "We expose James for who he really is." "But what if he reveals what I did?" Rachel asked, fear plain in her voice. Michael turned to her, determination shining in his eyes. "Then we face it together. The girls deserve the truth, Rachel. All of it. And you deserve the chance to fully redeem yourself, without secrets or threats hanging over your head." Rachel looked at him, gratitude and admiration in her tear-filled eyes. "After everything I've done, you're still willing to help me." "I'm not doing this just for you," Michael replied honestly. "I'm doing it for the girls, for our family, and because it's the right thing to do." As they outlined a plan to confront James and his threats, Michael felt a surge of resolve within him. This wasn't just another twist in their lives. It was a chance to finally leave the past behind and build a stronger, more honest future for them all. The battle ahead would be tough, but Michael was ready. With truth on his side and his daughter's love as motivation, he would face any storm that came his way. The antiseptic smell of the hospital filled the air as Michael walked down the stark white corridor, heart heavy with a mix of worry and determination. Rachel had been admitted the night before, her body finally giving in to the stress and depression caused by James's constant threats. Entering her room, Michael found her pale and frail, connected to machines that beeped in steady rhythms. Her eyes, once so vibrant, now looked dull and tired. "Michael," she whispered, her voice raspy. "Oh, you came." He sat in the chair by her bed, gently taking her hand. "Of course I did. The girls are with Betty. They send their love." Rachel closed her eyes, a single tear rolling down her cheek. "I don't deserve their love, or yours." "Rachel," Michael began, but she cut him off. "No, Michael. It's time for the truth. All of it." She took a shaky breath, summoning her courage. "I was completely fooled." In the minutes that followed, Rachel unraveled a web of lies and illusions that had gone on for years. James had never truly been wealthy. It was an elaborate facade propped up by mounting debts and pyramid schemes. "In the beginning, I really believed it," Rachel confessed, her voice trembling. "The fancy cars, the jewelry, the trips, it felt like a dream. I thought I had finally found the life I always wanted." Michael listened in silence, his heart aching at how lost Rachel had been. "But soon, reality started creeping in," she continued. "Unpaid bills, creditors calling. James always had an excuse, always promised the next big deal would fix everything." Rachel described years of constantly moving, always one step ahead of creditors, maintaining appearances while their lives crumbled behind the scenes. "And the girls?" Michael asked gently. "How could you—" "I convinced myself it was better this way," Rachel answered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "That they'd have a better life without me, that you could give them what I couldn't. It was the biggest lie of all, the one I told myself." Michael closed his eyes, processing it all. The anger he'd felt for so long began to shift into a profound sadness. Rachel wasn't just the villain, she had been a victim too. "James knew I was sick," Rachel went on. He persuaded me not to seek treatment, said we couldn't afford the medical bills, that I'd be fine." Michael felt indignation flare. James had ruined Rachel's life and potentially shortened it. "Rachel, we have to expose James," Michael said at last. "Not just for what he did to you, but to stop him from hurting anyone else." Rachel nodded weakly. "I know, I have evidence, documents, emails. I kept them all, in case I ever needed protection from him." In the days that followed, Michael worked tirelessly with William Hartley to build a case against James. William's business expertise and connections in the legal system proved invaluable. Meanwhile, Ashley intensified her therapy sessions with the girls, helping them process their mother's new revelations and preparing them for the turmoil ahead. A week after Rachel's hospitalization, everything was ready. Michael, accompanied by William and a private investigator they had hired, confronted James in a downtown cafe. James arrived, exuding his usual confidence, but Michael could see the nervous flicker in his eyes. "So, Michael," James smirked, taking a seat, "did you think about my proposal?" Michael placed a thick folder on the table. "I did, James. And I have a counter-proposal for you." As Michael laid out the evidence they had gathered, the pyramid schemes, the debts, the fraud, James's smile slowly vanished. "You have two options," Michael said, voice firm. "Turn yourself in, confess your crimes, and hope for a plea deal. Or we take all of this to the police and the press?" James paled, watching his empire of lies collapse before his eyes. "You don't understand," he muttered. "I have nothing. Everything. Everything was an illusion." "I know," Michael responded. "That's why I'm giving you this chance. One you don't deserve, but I'm offering it for Rachel's and the girls' sake." In that moment, James seemed to age 10 years, all his bravado and confidence drained, leaving only a defeated, frightened man. "What do you want me to do?" he asked, barely audible. The next few hours were a whirlwind. Under William and the detective's supervision, James made a full confession. He named accomplices, revealed hidden bank accounts, and detailed every scheme he had run over the years. When it was all over, Michael found himself back at the hospital, sitting by Rachel's bed. "It's done," he said softly. James confessed everything. Rachel exhaled shakily, relief and regret mingling in her eyes. "What happens now?" "Now," Michael answered, "we focus on your recovery, on rebuilding our family." Rachel looked at him, tears in her eyes. "After all this, You still consider me and the girls your family." Michael gently squeezed her hand. "Rachel, we've all made mistakes, but those girls bind us together. For them, I'm willing to try again. Not as husband and wife, but as partners in raising them." That night, back home, Michael gathered the girls in the living room. With Ashley by his side for support, he explained as gently as possible what had happened with James and why their mother was in the hospital. Emily, always the most mature, nodded in understanding. "Is she going to be okay, Daddy?" "She will," Michael replied, pulling her into a hug. "In time and with our support, she will." Madison, who had been silent, finally spoke. "Can we visit Mommy tomorrow?" "Of course, sweetheart." Lucy, the youngest, looked at Michael with her big, innocent eyes. "Is Mommy coming back home?" Michael exchanged a glance with Ashley before answering. "Not exactly, Lucy, but she'll be more present in our lives now. And that's a good thing." As he tucked the girls in that night, Michael reflected on the tumultuous journey they'd endured. The abandonment, the struggle, the rise, and now this new chapter filled with both possibilities and challenges. The future was still uncertain, but one thing was clear: they would face it together as a family, no matter what came next. Morning sunlight warmed Michael's new studio, highlighting the neatly arranged tools and bringing out the rich grains in the stacks of fine wood in the corner. He took a deep breath, savoring the scent of fresh sawdust and varnish. This space, so different from the little makeshift workshop in his garage years ago, was the tangible proof of his dreams and his journey. "It's all perfect, Dad." Emily's excited voice pulled him from his thoughts. She ran around the studio, her eyes shining with admiration. Madison followed behind, gently touching the different wood textures. "Can I have a spot here to paint?" she asked shyly. "Of course you can, sweetheart." Michael smiled, ruffling her hair fondly. "This place is as much yours as it is mine." Lucy, the youngest, stood before a covered piece in the center of the studio. "What's this, Daddy?" she asked, curiosity evident. Michael exchanged a conspiratorial glance with Ashley, who stood beside him. "It's a surprise," he answered. "We'll unveil it tomorrow at the grand opening." Ashley intertwined her fingers with Michael's, the engagement ring on her hand catching a subtle gleam of light. "They're going to love it," she whispered. The road to this moment had been long and full of challenges. After confronting James and exposing his schemes, Michael decided it was time to fully branch out on his own. With William Hartley's unwavering support, he left Hartley Fine Furniture to open his own studio. The choice hadn't been easy, but Michael knew it was necessary. He needed to create something wholly his, a legacy for his daughters. As the studio took shape, so did his personal life. Ashley, who had been a pillar of strength throughout the crisis, became much more than just the girl's therapist. Her constant presence, her unshakable support, and the love she clearly felt not only for the children, but also for Michael, had transformed their relationship. One starry night, with the girls already asleep, Michael brought Ashley for a walk in the park they often visited as a family. Under a century-old oak tree, he knelt, heart pounding, and asked her to marry him. "You're already part of this family," he'd said, voice thick with emotion. "Now I want to make it official." Ashley's tearful eyes shone in the moonlight as she gave him a trembling yes. As for Rachel, she was beginning her own healing journey. After being discharged from the hospital, she started intensive psychological treatment. The sessions were tough, forcing her to confront her past choices and the harm she had caused. "I chased a distorted idea of happiness," she confided to Michael during one of their talks. "And in the process, I almost lost what truly mattered." Gradually, Rachel found her place in the new family dynamic, not as Michael's wife or the primary mother figure anymore, but as a consistent, loving presence in her daughters' lives. She learned that real wealth wasn't in the possessions or the luxury lifestyle she once dreamed of, but in her daughters' smiles, in the small daily victories, and in the peace of being finally honest with herself and the people she loved. The morning of the store's grand opening arrived with a mixture of nerves and excitement. The space, carefully designed to showcase Michael's creations, looked perfect. Every piece told a story, reflecting not just his skill as a craftsman, but also his personal journey. Betty arrived early, her eyes brimming with pride. "Oh, Michael," she exclaimed, hugging him tight. "Look at all this. You've done it, dear." Michael felt a lump in his throat. "I couldn't have done it without you, Betty. You saved our family when we needed it most." As guests began to arrive, friends, industry colleagues, design journalists, Michael felt the magnitude of the moment. This wasn't just a store launch. It was the culmination of years of struggle, growth, and above all, love. William Hartley came, accompanied by his wife. "I'm proud of you, my boy," he said, patting Michael on the back. "You didn't just overcome adversity, you thrived." Rachel arrived shortly after, appearing nervous but determined. The girls rushed to hug her, and Michael felt a wave of gratitude at how far their relationship had come. Once all the guests were present, Michael asked for everyone's attention. It was time to reveal the special piece at the center of the store. "This journey," he began, voice steady despite the emotion, "was never just about making furniture. It was about rebuilding a life, a family, and none of it would have been possible without the three most important people in my world." With that, he pulled off the cloth covering the central piece. It was an extraordinary piece of furniture, a shelf that looked simple at first glance, but was filled with secret compartments, hidden drawers, and intricate details. In the center, a panel opened up to reveal a triple frame featuring recent photos of his three daughters. There was a collective gasp of admiration. The girls ran to examine it up close, their faces lit with surprise and delight. "This piece," Michael continued, "represents our journey. It looks simple on the outside, but holds depths and secrets within. And at the center of it all are my daughters, Emily, Madison, and Lucy. They're my true treasure, the reason I never gave up." Ashley moved closer, wrapping an arm around Michael's waist in silent support. Rachel, standing a little behind, had tears in her eyes, but wore a genuine smile. As the guests admired the piece and the other creations on display, Michael found himself surrounded by his extended family. Betty, who had become a grandmother to all of them. Ashley, his fiancée and partner in every sense. Rachel, finding redemption and a new purpose. And Wade, of course, his daughters, each one blossoming in her own way. Emily, ever the intellectual, was already talking about learning the craft so she could work alongside her dad one day. Madison had found in art a means to express her emotions and overcome her fears. And Lucy, the little storyteller, was already imagining the adventures each piece of furniture might witness. That night, after a successful opening with the girls asleep, tired but happy, Michael found himself on the porch with Ashley. "You know," he said, gazing at the stars, "there was a time I thought I'd lost everything, that I'd never be happy again." Ashley squeezed his hand. "And now?" Michael smiled, pulling her closer. "Now I realize I gained more than I ever dreamed possible. A career I love, 3 amazing daughters, a big loving family, and you." As they kissed under the starlit sky, Michael felt a deep peace settle in. The future, once so uncertain and frightening, now stretched before him full of promise and possibility. He realized this was not the end, but the start of a new and wonderful chapter.